Well, hello there, and welcome everyone to the Advisor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jacoman, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Chad Ramberg. We have another really exciting episode for you guys. Always, Chad knocks it out of the park with our guest appearances, and he brought on another phenomenal guest, and we're excited to talk to Erinn Andrews today, and we're going to learn a lot about her team. It's called Give Team, which is a philanthropic planning company that helps financial advisors empower their clients to give more, give better, and give now. So I think that's, by the way, Erinn, that's a phenomenal opening there, because it just talks about exactly what it is that you guys do and what you deliver. Yep. So we're excited to have you on. And Chad, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome to the end of the week. It's Friday.
I know. Yes. Thank God. Right. Erinn, thank you for joining us. I think we first met doing some FPA educational work in Arizona. Yeah. And I was excited to hear about what you're doing with the Give Team. I think I got that right. Yeah. And in part because we've had some advisors on here talking about the work they're doing with nonprofits. And the work you guys do is a little bit different. You're working directly with advisors, but you're also very focused on data and doing it right, the highest quality to have impact is kind of how I would summarize it. But why don't you tell us, why the Give Team?
Yeah. So I'll say a little bit about what we do, and then I'm happy to go back in time and sort of lead you to how I got here, because there's a whole story behind this progression. So great. I started Give Team. First of all, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to be in conversation with you and your audience. I started Give Team a few years ago because I saw really a gap in the philanthropic advising space. I was working at Stanford, running a research lab on effective philanthropy, interviewing donors, trying to understand what worked for them, what wasn't working for them, where were their gaps, opportunities, challenges. My secondary audience were financial professionals. How do they talk about charitable giving with their clients? What are they good at? Where are they not so great at? And really trying to connect the dots and create teaching and training resources to fill some of those gaps. But after years of doing that, what I realized was the philanthropic advising space really is crowded near the top of donors who give away many, many millions plus per year, that top 1% of donors. And that makes a lot of sense. Those donors need lots of high touch, bespoke, custom, time-consuming, and therefore expensive support. It's just a reality. You need that. And so it makes sense to have a lot of philanthropic advisors filling in that space. And then at the other end of the spectrum, I saw online DIY resources that I was creating at Stanford, that Fidelity and Schwab were rolling out, and nobody was using them. And in my work, I was talking to donors, and I have yet to meet a donor who actually goes off and does their own research. Because what I realized is individuals with money, with wealth, with the capacity to give, they value human advice. This is the reason why they hire financial advisors. Robo-advisors are not coming to take your job. They really do want to talk to a human being and get personal advice that makes sense for them. And that's what I realized is true in the philanthropic advising space as well. From my work, I don't believe human behavior changes without human intervention. You just need to have conversations with people. It's relational. And so to me, the gap that I saw was donors just below that top 1%. These are wealthy folks, a lot of financial advisors. These are your bread and butter clients. These are folks with many millions in liquid net worth on up to 50 million plus. But what they have in common is their annual giving level, and they're giving away maybe tens of thousands per year up to about $1 million per year. And that is not insignificant. That's a meaningful amount of money, but those are the folks who tend not to talk to philanthropic advisors because they're like, oh, too time consuming, too expensive. That's not me. I'm not Bill Gates, Right. It just doesn't seem like that's who they are. They don't wear that hat as they go around their daily life. And so in many cases, what happens are best intentions. There's a wealth event or retirement, or they need to take their RMD and they don't need it, or they change location, whatever. There are lots of different like triggering life events, and they're generous because Americans are generous. Americans give money away. We're one of the most generous nations on the planet. And but they will put money into these giving vehicles like donor advised funds. Thank you, financial advisors, for talking to your clients about that resource, that giving vehicle. It's incredibly valuable and nimble for donors, but a lot of times that money just sort of gets stuck there. And it's not because, and I talk to donors all the time. This is my job. And they're not bad people. They really have the best of intentions, but life gets busy. They're raising kids, they're working, they're retired, they're golfing, they're traveling, they're playing with the grandkids. They're doing the things that they want to do. And philanthropy is never number one on their to-do list. It's always number one on my to-do list because this is my full-time job. But there's so few of us. Most people, it's number 7 or number 17, So to me, that was just such a big gap. So I wanted to come up with a model of philanthropic advising that was right-sized for this donor segment and at the right price point where it makes sense for somebody to get some personal advice. The other thing I found in my research at Stanford is that donors often feel overwhelmed by the thought of charitable giving. They've been successful at business, at life, and now they want to be successful at giving money away. It makes sense, but there's a lot of overthinking. There's a lot of like, it must be exactly the perfect right solution. By the way, that doesn't exist. There is no perfect right organization out there, even if they're doing great work. So there's a lot of overthinking and worry about risk, about are they going to use the money well? There's so many concerns. We could go a whole tangent just into that. But what I wanted to do with my work and what I found was really effective is when we boil down the steps, if we can simplify the process, we can help people move into thoughtful action more quickly. And that's what I'm all about. So the way that I've built our model, what I realized is donors really need 3 things to move into thoughtful, proactive, intentional giving. They need to, number 1, know what they want to fund on purpose. What do I care about? What are my values? What change do I want to see in the world? Which causes, geographies, populations are important to me? Number 2, you need to know how much you can afford to give away and what's the right vehicle. Is it cash? Is it appreciated assets? Is it a private foundation, a donor advised fund? And number 3, they need to know what they want to fund on purpose, which nonprofits are out there for them to fund aligned with their goals from that first step. Those are the 3 things, if you boil it down, to build a charitable strategy. 3 is a manageable number,
Right.
And what I found in my work with financial advisors is they felt really good about number 2. They were like, look, I can figure out the tax benefits. I know the vehicle, I know the assets, I know the budget. Great. What they were less great at in most cases was building that charitable mission statement for the donor and finding local nonprofits for them to fund aligned with their goals. That is our Give Team model. That's what we've done. So we have built the first of its kind, scalable philanthropic advising model for donors who never would think about a philanthropic advisor as a resource. And we help them build a charitable mission statement in about 1 hour. And 1 month later, we meet with them again for another hour, and we recommend local nonprofits for them to fund aligned with their goals. And this is in partnership with the financial advisor. That advisor joins the calls. They help them execute, they help them follow through, and they help them with that giving vehicle. And we don't manage assets. So it's completely complementary, not a conflict at all with what we're doing with the advisors. So that might be more than you were specifically thinking about for that intro, but I feel like it's so important to understand the context in which I'm operating and how I got to this place, because Give Team's model is unlike any other philanthropic advising model out there.
Absolutely. So just to make sure I understand correctly, you and your team, you come alongside with the advisor and the client and just help build out that charitable model for that specific client.
Yes. And so the elevator pitch version of that longer winded explanation is we're a team all across the US of philanthropic advisors, and we work in partnership with financial advisors to help their clients develop a charitable strategy and be able to move into thoughtful action quickly. The goal is within a month, you have a strategy that is personal to you, and you are able to deploy assets from your donor advised fund or wherever back into communities sooner than later, all based on what you care about and the change you want to see in the world.
And you work with local to them. You help them find
local to them. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is the other super unique thing about what we've built is we actually build custom regional databases all across the US. So we have a hyper local focus, whether you are in Rhode Island or Florida or Idaho, we have visibility on the ground as to who's doing what. And by pre-populating these databases with nonprofits that are doing great work, we can much more quickly and efficiently find a good match for a donor. So we're doing the curating, the vetting, the matchmaking, because to me, we're trying to solve a lot of pieces of the puzzle here. We want to help financial advisors look good by bringing better charitable planning support to their clients through the execution phase. We want to help donors build clarity and confidence around their charitable giving so they can unleash that generosity back into communities sooner than later. And we want to help nonprofits get more money without having to spend money on fundraising so that they can do the great work in communities. This is a really big piece of the puzzle that often isn't addressed. So we're really trying to work on all three of those dimensions.
Yeah, that's multi-layers there. And how about, because I mean, when we're looking at charities, there may be some great ones locally that we personally know. Maybe we know the leader of that particular charity or something like that. And you might say a portion of it you want to go there or something like that. But that's a lot of information just to understand the charities and how that aligns with what the donors want to do. How do you wrap your head around all of that?
Yeah. So this is the most fun part. And this is where we need human beings in these conversations. Because when we meet with a donor or a donor couple, we're asking them so many personal questions to understand, what do you care about? What kind of change do you want to see in the world? Are you drawn to direct service organizations or research or scholarships or advocacy? Donors don't usually think of it that way, and yet they often have a strong preference. Have you thought about a big organization or a small organization? What are your personal values? So we take in all of this information, and then the number one thing we're thinking about when we're looking for organizations that could be a good fit is mission alignment. We want to set up donors with organizations that speak their language, that are really addressing the populations they care about, or are working in the geographies, or have the solutions that resonate with the donors. Because what I don't want to have happen, that what bad philanthropy is when a donor goes to an organization and says, wouldn't it be great if you had a program like this? You don't want a donor to come in there, because the organizations, they know their community, they know how to solve those problems. And so we're looking for mission alignment. So when the donor does show up, they immediately fall in love with it. We're setting the stage for, oh my gosh, this is incredible work that they're doing. And of course, there's more to it that we're thinking about it beyond that, but mission alignment and geography and population, those are really, really important first filter criteria.
Yeah, that's great. Is the when you're working with advisors, because we in our work with advisors, we get to know the advisors pretty well. This space I don't know as well. Not a big deal. But it's I mean, you get advisors that have either a niche type advisor in a specific area or something like that. How do you, I guess I'm really curious about the interaction with the advisors. Yeah. And how that really looks. Is most of your connection with advisors come through the donor side of it? Or do you connect with the advisors and the advisors say, hey, I've got these 3 clients that really want to develop more charitable giving?
Yeah. So when I started Give Team, outreach strategy was, in order to reach the most number of donors, I need to connect with the most number of financial advisors. I believe the best charitable planning support happens in collaboration with the financial advisor. I want that to all live under their umbrella of suite of services. We are just an extension of their team. Put me in, coach, when you have a client that needs this. So I spend a lot of my time meeting financial advisors, meeting the heads of firms, national RIAs, local RIAs, broker dealers, and networking with the right people who then I can bring education to those financial advisors about, how do we do this? What does this mean? Most of them have never thought about this way. They don't think about their clients from donor segmentation.
Right.
Right? It's a different way. They do lots of client segmentation, but it's not usually donor segmentation. So I often will teach and help advisors think about their clients from a different perspective. I teach about, different giving vehicles. They sometimes have questions about ways of using donor advised funds. Once we have that relationship, in some cases, we build a firm level relationship where we're contracted with the firm to be there. We're here for you, when you need us, fractional, right? However you want to think about it, for charitable planning support. And then when we work with financial advisors, we share with them language they can use to bring this into their day-to-day work with clients. We make suggestions about, if you aren't asking about charitable giving in your client intake form, you're behind the ball. You should be bringing this up at every meeting. And it may not be that you tackle it at every meeting, but here are questions you could ask. Here's language you could use. And really trying to equip advisors with you don't have to know every answer. You just have to know who to ask and get the answer for the client. And so in some cases, advisors can answer the questions for the client. And in other cases, they'll say, let me get back to you. I know just who to ask, and I'll put you in touch with the right resource. So a lot of it's education and empowerment around, you're not going to look like you don't know what you're talking about. Just put yourself out there, talk about charitable giving, but know the right resources that you can talk to connect the dots. And then what a lot of advisors do is they bring it up with their client and they say, we just opened this staff. Do you have any plans about what you want to do with that money? Or 5 years later, that money's still just sitting in that DAV. Is there anything do you want some help? We've got a great advising resource that can help you come up with a plan. It's not going to take over your life. Like, it's a pretty quick hit. And then the clients are usually like, yeah, that sounds interesting. And a lot of times they'll then make an intro, just an email intro, and say, hey, can you do a quick call just to see if this could be a good fit for my client? And then I can, my team or I will just hop on with that client for 30 minutes and say, this is what we do, and tell us about your situation. Would this be valuable? And then we're able to, oftentimes we'll then work with them and bring them into our formal process. But we CC the advisor on all of the correspondence. They are invited to all of the meetings. We really love it when they come. They're usually just a fly on the wall, but they usually walk away saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about you, or that's so cool, or I didn't realize you were thinking about things in that way. And then they can also help with both accountability and follow through, which are really important parts of an advisor's job. And they're the main point person, and we want them to be that. We're just there to give them a charitable giving boost of, a strategic, boost in what they're thinking about. So, and then in some cases, the firms or the advisors pay for this for their clients because they see this as a value add. This is something they don't want to nickel and dime their clients around. At the same time, we get plenty of just direct referrals where the advisor says, yeah, my clients, would, just like they would to a CPA or an estate planner, right? Something like that. And in most cases, donors are able to pay our small, flat advising fee through their donor advised fund. So we have contracts and relationships with all the major national commercial DAF sponsors to be able to bring this type of advising to DAF holders.
Well, I tell you what I love about it is you're really highlighting the value of the human connection, because the advisors have that, a lot of times when I'm talking with advisors and I never want to know who their clients are, but to get a characterization of who they are, sometimes I'll ask some questions about them that can be interesting. And a lot of times I'll say, oh yeah, they've been friends for 20 years now. I started working with them, and I go to their weddings and stuff like that. So you're really helping connect. and adding value to that human connection for
So
your
much value.
advisors.
The other thing that we hear from, we anecdotally hear this from both clients and advisors. What often happens is the advisor introduces us to the client. We work with them. They love it. And then we actually do hear stories of them bringing more assets over.
Right.
Where the advisors
that's a good
manage,
point.
right? Like we had a client that we were working with a national RIA, and this client, they were hearing murmurings that she might leave. You know, she was maybe thinking about consolidating assets elsewhere. And they were like, you know what? She's charitably inclined. Let's just throw her a bone. Let's just see if this is something that could get her to engage her. And, you know, maybe she'll find value in it. She loved it so much. And then about a month later, we heard from that advisor that she just rolled over the rest of her assets with them. So it's a unique value add. It's not I talk to a lot of advisors and most don't do it. So if you can get on the bandwagon, your clients will really appreciate it.
Well, why do you think most don't do it?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. A number of different reasons. I'm doing some research right now on how financial advisors think about donor advised funds. And I was able to cherry pick a few of my most DAF forward advisors to get a sense of their background and see if there were any common traits. So I'll say both why I think advisors don't talk about it, but then also show you the advisors that do talk about it, what those character traits look like. So for the advisors that don't talk about it as much or don't really build it into their practice, I think largely it's because it feels like an unknown is one. They feel like they don't know enough. And so if they say something wrong or they don't know the answer, they're worried they're going to look stupid to their client. And that's the last thing they want, right? They don't want to be seen as a non-expert. That's a big piece. So lack of knowledge. Another piece is it's the elephant in the room, but truly I don't hear this one as much anymore, that they're worried about losing assets. If that AUM moves into a DAF, maybe they can manage the DAF, but then the money's given away. That's less AUM. I mean, how many of your clients really move over 100 million and then they're like, I'm going to give away 99% of that? They don't do that, like maybe one, but that doesn't really happen. So it's just, that's not a great argument I hear. I would argue. Another reason is I think they just don't have as much visibility into donor advised funds in general. Some of them are newer, some of them maybe they're not as charitably inclined themselves. They don't see the value. So those are some of the reasons why I see advisors not talking about it as much. Some will say my clients don't have enough money to give away, and some people are maybe just starting their book of business, and it's, those Henry's high earning, not yet rich folks that, maybe, still have a ways to go. But most of the advisors we work with have a number of clients where this is the right fit. The cool things that I learned about my rockstar financial advisors who really are lean forward with charitable planning, it is deeply personal to them. They believe in it. They're just wonderful, good people who their whole life, they care about giving back. They care about being part of the community. It's just embedded in their DNA. And I see it more and more with some of the younger advisors too. Not to say it's necessarily a generational thing, because it's not. There are lots of more experienced veteran advisors where this has also always been part of their DNA. But when it's truly authentic to an advisor's, what they care about, that comes across. And that passion, not to say fund my nonprofit that I fund, that is never a good idea, but to authentically show like, this is what we do. We make money, we save money, we grow, we leave a legacy for our kids, we give back. These are all the things that we do because this is important to the fabric of our society. This is American. This is something that, is a way to leave a legacy and to teach our kids great values and things like that. So those really, rock star advisors who are leading with charitable planning, it's embedded within them. And many of them have known about DAFs for 20 years. Some can't remember the first time they learned about DAFs because they feel like they've known about them forever. And others remember it was my client in 2015. And I remember exactly the situation because it was so memorable for them. So anyway, lots of different reasons.
That's great. Now, I don't want to skip over. You mentioned something about research that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so you kind of came out, what I picked up from your history and our conversations prior to this, you kind of came out of the educational sector and I like to dig into numbers a little bit. So tell me about the research you're doing. I'd like to understand more there.
Great. I love research. I think research helps inform problem solving, but I only love research when there are practical applications. So I am not a research for the sake of research kind of person. And so I'm really I've done a number of different research studies when I was at Stanford, led a couple there. And this one that I'm involved with now is through the Donor Advised Fund Research Collaborative, which is this national, it's like barely a formal entity, but it's a bunch of researchers, all of us who geek out on donor advised funds and how are they being used and who's using them and what works and what doesn't work and what do donors think and what do nonprofits think. And now we're on to what do the advisors think. So we've been slicing and dicing DAF research in a lot of different ways. This effort that I'm involved in right now is we want to understand how financial advisors talk about donor advised funds with their clients. What knowledge do they need to know before they feel comfortable talking about donor advised funds? How do they present it as an option? How do they talk about it compared to other vehicles like a private foundation or QCD or other options that could be out there? Why do they recommend one DAF over another? What traits are most important for their clients when choosing a DAF? Lots of just questions. There were so many questions. We had to cut so many. That's the hardest part as a researcher. You just want to ask everything. They all become your favorite question, but we narrowed it down. Anyway, that survey just went live on Monday of this week.
Oh, okay.
It's fresh. It's new. I ran some focus groups in August with these, superstar DAF users, and to help us really craft the questions and build a thoughtful survey. So this survey just went live. Our goal is to reach thousands of financial advisors all across the country, whether they are new to the profession or a veteran, whether they know what a DAF is or don't. We want that wide range of financial advisor to take this short 10-minute anonymous survey and distribute it among their networks. And then we will aggregate those results. We will write it up, and we'll make the research available to the public for free. And probably as a result of that, come up with some trainings and teachings to help, especially those financial advisors who feel less confident in talking about donor advised funds, upskill a little bit. So
that's great. So it'll help the advisors be more effective with their work. Yeah. And of course, it helps lead into if they need some of these resources, they'll be better equipped to proceed forward with that is what it sounds like. So
and it's also going to help the donor advised fund sponsors see what they are thought of and where there could be opportunities for improvement for them as well. Lots of practical applications, because I love practical applications of research.
Yeah, and in the end, it should help get the resources in the right place for the work that's being done. And so you're matching. That's really great. That survey, is there a link or somewhere folks can find that if they want to help out with it?
Yes. Maybe I can share it with you and you could attach it to the podcast, or it's too long of a URL for me to say. I'm sorry.
Totally fine. We'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah. We would love for any of your audience listeners to do that. If I can I tell you one other really cool research that I worked on when I was at Stanford that advisors, when they hear it, just think it's the most interesting thing ever?
Absolutely. If advisors think it's interesting, I'm interested.
I know, right? I thought you'd feel that way. This was research that we did also with this national collaborative that was titled Tubs, Tanks, and Towers. And it was looking at donor advised funds and how donors use them. So archetypes of donors and how they use DAFs, donor advised funds. And I cite this research all the time. And when I teach financial advisors about it, they think about their clients differently because they realize their clients have different needs around supporting their donor advised funds. So I can describe it very quickly. This is a tub donor is a donor who puts money into their donor advised fund, let's say $50,000. And at the end of the year, they've granted back out $50,000 to charities. So they've put in the same amount that they've granted out. It's a budgeting exercise. So their payout rate, 100%, right? They put in a certain amount and they pay it out. They're using it like a charitable checking account, essentially. And they've got all their receipts in one place and it's really easy. And that's just part of their mentality. So those are the tub donors. The tank donors, they will put money into their DAF, a much larger amount, often because of a wealth event or bunching strategy or, big taxable income year, want to offset some of that income tax. And so maybe they'll put $1 million into their DAF, but they certainly don't plan on gifting and granting $1 million within the next 3 months. That's out, too overwhelming, but they're like, okay, now I can give this out for the next 5 years or 5 to 7 years or something like that. And they might still put more money in over the years, but they're using it more like a savings account, right? It's going to be something that they spend out in a reasonable amount of time, but not like within 1 year. That makes a lot of sense. They want to build a strategy. Okay. Those are the tank donors. And then the tower donors are really using the DAF like it's a private foundation. This is a legacy vehicle. They put the money in, they set it up to be in perpetuity. They earmark 5%, 7% to go out every year. They have their kids involved. It really is a private foundation labeled as a DAF. So those are the 3 archetypes that we uncovered through our research, how people use their donor advised fund. And I just, again, think it's so interesting. So thanks for letting me just share that insight with your listeners.
Yeah. And I mean, how they use it, I would think for, if you've got somebody that's really going into a niche and maybe they're really passionate about giving, if they're an advisor passionate about giving, they want to help, they would help them communicate with their potential clients who's a match for them, because there's so much information out in the world. It's hard to sometimes make that connection where we need to.
Yeah.
So that's, and is that something, so you're already giving us a lot of good resources that I think advisors will really appreciate. And the website that you have, what's the website that they can go to there?
It's www.thegiveteam.com.
Okay.
So
that one's good and simple.
That one's easy. It doesn't have XY29. No.
Right. Absolutely. So I want to make sure, like I says, we're going to put that in there. And is the best way for folks to get a hold of you? Do you like email or link on the website, or how is the best way?
Email's great. And I love hearing directly from advisors, and I love giving talks and teaching. So reach out to me. My email is Erinn, ERINN @thegiveteam.com. I pause while you remember that I have 2 N's in my name, but that's the best way to reach me. Yeah.
That's great. That's a lot of fun. And then also, because I think I was talking to you about some, since we met at FPA, NAPFA, or some other places, if there is, I don't know, FPA NorCal or something like that, and they want a really good, I mean, you're a dynamic, fun person to talk to. I imagine you're great doing a presentation. If there is one of those organizations that say, hey, I've got a group of 100 advisors here, or, a couple hundred or whatever, could you come speak? Just get a hold of you the same way?
Same way. And I do that all the time. It is my favorite thing. I have lots of different content and love teaching. And yeah, it's definitely, I'd love to be able to spread some more knowledge around this. And what I find on the conference circuit, because I really spend a lot of my time in these financial advisor, financial planner environments, is the closest folks come to talking about charitable planning is usually estate planning and tax strategies and sometimes giving vehicles, but it really never goes much deeper into the actual personal values of the donors, the clients, and how to connect them with opportunities in the community to make gifts. Because I think so often advisors think that part's not their job. And I respect that because they have a lot on their plate. But I do think there is, I don't know if probably moral obligation is too strong a word, but there is, I hope that by working with me or hearing from me, at least, they begin to think that it's not just about getting the money into the vehicle. There's also an obligation to help their clients get that money back out. And we're here to help with that. They don't need to know everything. And there are other great resources out there too. But to just get the money into the vehicle, I would argue your job's not done yet. Keep going, keep trying.
That's right. Know? They've got a good start, but money's no good sitting in an account. It's how we use it.
Exactly.
It's a funny story for you. So when my son recently, a year and a half ago, sent him off to college. So my gift just from me to him was a wallet. Okay, money, right? But I took the wallet and I said, remember, money's a tool. And I had it stamped on the wallet because it's obviously the work that we do in helping advisors. It's all about the money and how to do good things with it. But I wanted him to know that so many people get wrapped up in what it is that they forget it's just a tool. Let's use it well.
Yeah, right? Use it well. Yes, I love that. So, great story.
Thank you. We will. I would love to have you back on once you get the information from the research. And we'll get it out there, because one of the reasons I'm in the financial services industry is to help people do better with money, right? Yeah. And so let's do that. When we wrap up these podcasts, we kind of like to have a question that helps us understand you better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so what I'd like you to do is kind of imagine you're many years out. You've done a great work in your life, personal, professional, whatever, and you're sitting there on your porch watching the sun go down, and you're thinking, this is how I'm known. This is how people think about me, and it's been a life well lived. What does that look like for you, Erinn?
Thank you. It's like, what's going to be on my tombstone? I think so. I've got children as well. And when they were a little bit younger, we tried to help them understand what my husband and I did for work. And full disclosure, my husband is a financial planner. So we just live and breathe it in my house. And for our kids, when they were really little, we said, Daddy helps everybody save and grow their money, and mommy helps them give it all away.
That's great.
You get that, but it's not just about the act of doing those things. And so I think for me, if I could be remembered for anything, it would be inspiring generosity at the highest level as a value. And, again, the mechanisms by way of doing that, unlocking money from DAFs, getting money back into communities sooner than later, helping others. In our family, we have values on the wall, our family values. And our number one family value is kindness. And I think from that, everything else, the rest of the world will tick along well. And so if I can be remembered for anything, I hope it is inspiring generosity.
That's great. When you can say it in a couple of words, then it can go on your tombstone.
Then it can go on your tombstone. Exactly.
I guess that's a little more. I got to tell you, it's funny about you and your husband, the story, because I was an advisor for a couple of years in there. Obviously, no good at it. I'm not doing it anymore. But my wife, she's been for many decades now a professional organizing, helping spaces get organized. So you get what you want out of your space, or more so. And so we used to joke as to say, well, she organizes a space, I organize the money.
There you go.
There's always, now I don't do that anymore. I help make sure that other advisors can help organize the money. So I guess I'm helping out somehow, but
it's always good to practice what you do to a 5-year-old and be able to boil it. Then you know that somebody can understand what you do.
This is fantastic. I'm hoping that we are helping inspire some generosity with the advisors and the folks listening to this, and it can just grow from there, because it's, just like being kind, you can't give enough away.
That's right. Oh, I love that, Chad. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you and bring this content to your audience. I really appreciate it and look forward to a future conversation where we can go deeper into some of the findings from the research we're doing. And I'll be sure to share that link with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later, Erinn.
Chad. All right. Take care.
Thanks.